When you get into more advanced bushcrafting skills, it's the same techniques, just on a larger scale. And what I'm talking about today is when working with larger timbers. If let's say we are making a sawbuck or we're making a bench, we need to still take into consideration what the wood is and where the strength of the wood is before we go ahead and work with it. Now that might sound somewhat confusing, but I'm going to show you one example of something that happens all the time to individuals, and that is when they put legs inside a larger piece of wood like this log right here, they split the wood out. And the reason for that is because they're not utilizing the strength of the wood appropriately. What I mean by that is we think about the grain. So the grain runs down the length of this log. So if I was going to split this out with my axe, I can set my axe here and start to pound in, and my axe will work itself in there, ultimately splitting this log out. On the other hand though, if I take my axe and go across the grain and start to pound this in, it's going to be very hard to just split that out. I'm going to have to use a lot of force and a lot of pressure, and ultimately I'm probably not going to split it out because the grain runs in the opposite direction. So if we take that, what I just said, and translate that over to placing some type of leg into a stool, we're going to use the same concept. So I made a little mock setup in this old log to show what exactly I'm talking about. So if we take a leg and we measure it up, okay, I know that there is strength in the wood if I press it front to back, meaning if I press pressure this way and this way, so down the log and up the log, I could push as hard as I want and I'm not going to create a crack this way. But on the other hand, if I put stress this way and this way, I'm probably going to split this wood out. So when carving a leg or anything to go into wood, what we want to do is we want this side and this side of the wood to be thicker, and the two pieces that are facing my finger now and the back side thinner, not even touching the sides of the circle. Then what happens when I punch this in is we're using the structure of the wood to keep that in there nice and tight. So now I made another peg, on the other hand, that fits this hole absolutely perfectly. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to drive this in, and because it fits this hole perfectly, what's going to happen as I drive this in is we start to create a crack here, because the wood is being pressed apart in the wrong direction. So you can see if I would continue to push that through, now I'm splitting the wood out. Whereas on the other hand, I can keep driving this in and nothing's happening because I'm using the strength of the wood to our advantage. So that's just a quick tip if you are taking your bushcrafting to the next level of building camp furniture, building tools around camp like sawbucks and cobbling benches and things like that. This is an important aspect. We need to think of all those little things we learned over the years starting out as bushcrafting, cutting into the grain, cutting away from the grain, cutting, all of those things apply over to more advanced skills, and this is a perfect example of that. So if you're going to make legs and you're going to stick them inside the wood, use the structure of the wood to your advantage. This was Dan Walker, Coalcracker Bushcraft. Check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com, and until next video, stay in the woods.